talk about the bumps and squiggles. The one thing you should remember as we go through this is that anytime an impulse travels toward the positive lead, it will give us a positive deflection on our ECG graph paper. As an impulse travels away from a positive lead, it will give us a negative deflection on our ECG graph paper. If you can remember this, the rest is super easy. So let's talk about it. The right atrium is depolarized down, to the left, and towards lead 2, which is a positive lead. This atrial depolarization gives us an initial positive deflection on our ECG. However, the left atrium is depolarized away from lead 2, and this will give us a negative deflection on our ECG paper. This atrial depolarization is represented on the ECG paper as the P wave. The intraventricular septal fascicle is responsible for depolarizing the intraventricular septum. This depolarization occurs from left to right and away from lead 2. This depolarization is represented on the ECG paper as the very first negative deflection following the PR segment. We call this the Q wave. Anterior left ventricle is depolarized towards lead 2. This depolarization is represented on the ECG as the very first positive deflection either following the Q wave or following the PR segment. We call this the R wave. The lateral region of the left ventricle is depolarized up and away from lead 2. This is represented on the ECG graph paper as a negative deflection called the S wave. With ventricular myocytes, regions that depolarized last will repolarize first. This means repolarization starts in the high lateral wall of the left ventricle, comes towards lead 2, and then it works its way exactly the opposite way around. Because this repolarization occurs towards lead 2 and then goes away from it, this is represented on the ECG paper as a first positive deflection followed with a negative deflection. This is known as the T wave.